Hey guys, welcome back to the Golf Podcast. This is episode number 371, and we're going to talk tempo today.
One of my favorite topics.
It is your favorite topic.
I don't take my own advice, and I should, but...
Yeah, and we're not talking music, guys. We're talking about your swing, although it does relate in some ways to music. I know you've even practiced to music before in order to work on your tempo, haven't you?
I did it again last weekend. I found a range on a weekend, which was so rare. It was a great story. My real short 5-second version. My sister-in-law came up, wanted to see my wife and my kids. They went to my mother-in-law's. They said, my wife's like, Mike, you gonna be all right for 3 hours by yourself? I'm like, I'll be okay. So I went to the range, and no, I had the AirPods in. I went back to the music, and it does help. I'm telling you guys, you put on those softer songs, like you throw back whatever your favorite artist is. I'm sure there's like a song that's on the slower side. I do that for like the warm-up, and then I'll slowly just try to transition and pick it up a little bit more as I go. But I use it to help.
This guy's out there listening to Boys to Men on Bended Knee.
Bended Knee is what I start with. Motown Philly by the end.
There you go.
That's right.
I love, though, that you got that weekend hall pass to go to the range.
That was epic.
Anybody out there who's like us and has small kids at home, you know that doesn't happen that often. But one thing we talk about here on the show all the time is we said, we're realistic. We're not professional golfers. We're not professional instructors. We don't get to live on the course as much as it may look like it if you follow us on social. The reality is we have limited time too. So one of the things we're going to talk about here is how to make the most of your practice time.
Yep.
That's a quick hint. One thing we've done before is using some music or whatever, but different things you can do because when you don't have a lot of time, you've got to really make the most of it. So tempo, rhythm, it's something that you can work on. It's something you can, it may look like it comes naturally to a lot of the professional golfers out there, and we'll highlight some of the ones that we think set a great example. But the reality is it is something that you can improve if you know what it is that's getting you out of your tempo. And those are the keys that we're really going to highlight today.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like I find that tempo on the range, and then I'll bring it out to the first, and then maybe the second, and then it just starts to go out the window.
Yeah,
you know, especially as things happen, like you get a birdie, you get fired up, or you shank a ball and you start to get angry. You just come out of that rhythm, and then I start to get fast again.
No doubt about it. Interestingly enough, is what we're going to talk about is that golf is not a static game. Things change, and you need to be able to adapt to it. And I think the number one way to adapt is to be aware. If you're unaware of it, how do you change anything? So a big thing that we're going to highlight, we're going to talk about how do I know and become aware that my tempo is potentially changing, and that might be causing an issue. I just noticed you still have your sunglasses on. Can anybody tell we just came from the golf course?
Do they still on?
Yeah. Can you tell we just came? We actually...
Here, put that camera on me for a second.
There you go. Here he is.
All right, can we just do the whole show like this?
We actually, exciting news, we're back at Sleepy Hollow doing another fitting, and you guys know what happens when we do a fitting. It means another giveaway is coming.
Oh, yeah.
So we got the chance to try out the brand new Titleist TSI hybrids, and we will be doing a giveaway, so stay tuned. We'll have all the news on that coming to you guys really soon. Speaking of which, I want to do a quick word from our sponsors, and then I want to dive into this week's Twitter tap-in because this is another fun one.
It's a good one.
It's a fun one, and I always like this because you know when the responses start to roll in, you know when people are having a little bit of fun with the question.
I had to jump into it. That's how much I like this one.
Yeah, and we got our fair share of laughs, so I'm going to dive into that in a second. But first, of course, we want to thank Titleist. The new Pro V1 and Pro V1 X, they've been completely reimagined from core to cover. And speaking of which, Mike, you and I got a chance to go up to Manchester Lane and test these out at the end of last year, and wow, were we impressed. I think any time that you take something like this that has had such great success, I think the Pro V1, I think, was celebrating a 20-year anniversary since the first Pro V1 came out, and to be able to take something that is truly the leader in golf ball innovation and continue to push the envelope is something that I really admire. They're always, and if we've had the chance to meet the team, you can tell the passion is they're always trying to outdo themselves. So they've got a new aerodynamic cover, a new casing layer, new core technologies. What the result is, you get longer distance and softer feel. I'm the type of person, I'm really like a softer feel out of the golf ball. That's one reason why I was leaning towards the AVX, which is a terrific ball, but the new Pro V1, it's got that softer feel like the AVX with still that same trajectory that I like out of the Pro V1. Incredible. So you get more greenside spinning control, and If you're looking for the differences, the Pro V1X has a low long game spin, just like the Pro V1, but the X offers a slightly higher trajectory, and the Pro V has a slightly more penetrating ball flight. So again, that's golfer to golfer.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Naturally, I hit the ball a little bit higher. I'm not looking for any higher trajectory, so the Pro V1 fits me. You have a little bit of a lower trajectory, so you get a little bit more out of the Pro V1X, allows you to have that better angle into the green and hold more green. So there's something there for every golfer. If you guys get the opportunity to get fit for a golf ball, go out there, try them, see what works for you, get out there and game it. You can always bring your best. Check out Titleist.com and pick up a dozen for yourselves this season. Start your season off the right way. You won't regret it. Another thing too is that we often get the question, speaking of fittings, and speaking of the TSI fitting that we did today, a lot of you guys ask, hey, what's the best place to get fit? Well, we're happy to announce a brand new sponsor of the show, Golf Tech, and we had the opportunity to go down there and do a skills assessment. Super cool. And not only that, super enlightening. You learn a lot about your game doing a skills assessment. Well, guess what? Golf Tech has an amazing offer for listeners of the podcast. You can now get a $75 swing evaluation or $75 club fitting, your choice. And anybody who has had the pleasure of getting a club fitting at Golf Tech knows that's a huge value, $75, because they've got access to all the major brands. You're going to be able to go through there and try all the big brands. You walk in there, Mike, and that wall of shafts.
The wall shafts, yeah.
Right? And you just know, with the more options, the better it is for us as golfers. So you're going to be able to do that. You're going to be able to go through their special, very unbiased club fitting system. And it really helps match ideal clubs and shafts to your swing. Like we just said, every golfer is different. You really want to get matched up the right way. And the swing evaluation, it's just a great way to get that baseline evaluation and really know what you need to work on. And this time of year, it's a great time to do it. Get out there the start of the season and check that out. So again, everything, they're going to have the upper limit on all the technology. You've got, TrackMan and all the latest technology in their tech fit process, so that you're getting a great fitting from a technological standpoint. And again, the staff there, incredibly knowledgeable. You're just in really good hands.
I think it's going to be a big year of fittings for people, because a lot of us were like stuck inside last year. So now we're itching to get out. I think a lot of fittings are going to happen. And a lot of you are probably thinking about fittings. This is the place to go, especially for $75.
$75, and we don't buy clubs without getting fit, and you shouldn't either. So go check out Golf Tech now. You can go to golftech.com/Golficity. You can use that to sign up for your special rate. It's just for listeners of the Golf Podcast. Like I said, $75 for a lesson or a fitting. You're not going to beat it.
You're not. And if you do happen to take the skills assessment, shoot us a note and let us know how you do, because we're curious.
I'd love to do it. And I want to get back there and do it again.
We're going to do it again.
Yeah, because you just want to keep outdoing yourself. All right. So again, thanks to our sponsors. And let's jump right into this week's Twitter tap-in. And if you guys aren't already following us on Twitter, make sure you do so at Golficity, so that you can be part of the conversation. And this week we asked, if you could play golf with one celebrity, who would it be and why? We told you guys to tag them for some extra points, and a lot of you did cash in on those extra points. I don't know if they're going to be worth anything, but you cashed them in. That's for sure.
Cashed them in. We see some cash ins.
And I see yours first one there.
First locked and loaded. I'd go with Mark Wahlberg. I think he'd be a fun guy to play with. I don't think he'd offer up much, because he would just be playing so fast.
Yeah. I was just saying, you think you could keep up with him?
I don't know. I mean, I could keep up with him, because you know how fast I am.
Yeah.
I just keep going. I might be able to outpace him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think so, because I just walk ridiculously fast. But it'd be cool to actually play around with him and pick his brain. And if he played it a little slow, we can actually chat during it. That I think it would be enjoyable.
There you go. And yeah, I mean, he's known for playing rounds in about an hour.
Plus
and a
the
half.
stories he may have from golf stories from over the years, people he's played with, and
no doubt about it. I mean, that's part of the reason why you go out there and, whether a celebrity or not, enjoy the game playing with other people. Is the conversation.
Yep.
We've talked about that before. Speaking of conversation, and just to be able to say I've done it, I think I'd pick Bill Murray. I mean, come on. And no one would ever believe me, because it's like those Bill Murray stories, where it said he was at this bar when I was there. No one ever believes it. It's just like the legend of Bill Murray. But I would say I'd play with him. I mean, I enjoy like watching the Pebble Beach Pro-Am every year and just seeing the.
You think it'd be too much? You think he'd be always like, can you just turn it off for a sec?
You know what? I
but
don't
then
know.
why
I
would you
think
care?
That's just Bill. You're just all in for Bill.
Yeah, that's true.
So some of our other responses here, I like this one. Curtis Cole, he says, I'm going with Snoop Dogg. aka the Dog Father, says, for show.
For show. Yep.
I think you're staring down about a 6-hour round out there, because I've never seen him move fast.
Yep.
It's the opposite of Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be the opposite. That'd be, what would you say, about a 7-hour round?
There you go.
Eddie D'Souza, I'd love to play 18 with Adam Sandler. Not to talk about his movies or old comedy, just to hear stories off the record with his crew. That would be a great day. Plus, I think I could beat him, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, he's still got a swing.
He had a pretty good swing recently, yep.
Let's see. Art says, Brian Erlacher, he says, once upon a time, I caddied an event that he played and still have the frame picture and signed scorecard from 03. Wow. And I see that a lot of like football guys. Dan Drake says Darius Rucker.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a throwback.
I'm a
Hootie and the
fan.
Blowfish. And he's a terrific golfer. From what I hear.
Terrific. Knows the game, too.
Todd Doblanier says Michael Jordan. Now there's
Jordan
one.
will be a popular one.
I'll tell you what, Todd, bring your wallet.
Bring your wallet.
Because I hear that he
tell him right out of the
plays
gate you got no money.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you tell MJ
Okay.
you got no money.
I got no
He's
money,
gonna
man.
pass.
We're good.
He's gonna play with somebody else. I still remember that terrific story where him with Justin Thomas as a kid, and he took JT on his team and hustled the guys he was playing with.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody thought like a 13-year-old was gonna beat them.
That's a great story.
That is one of my favorite stories.
How about good old Dr. Tinsley? You want to talk about that one?
Oh yeah, there he is, the doc.
So we met Dr. Andrew Tinsley. He was our final pairing at the Old Course in Scotland in St. Andrews that day. I think he showed up like 20 minutes before the tee time. He didn't have any jacket. He was just like, he was on a standby.
Right. He did not think that he was going to get a tee time.
He didn't think he was going to get one.
Chance. He was traveling with his wife, and I remember him saying he would just walk down and see if he could get out. And they just said, because we had been to be a threesome. Like, we got one spot, you got to go right now.
He had to go right now. And he ended up being our fourth with me and you and Bernie, the member there.
Yep.
Who got us onto the course. And then he posted this photo on the Twitter tap-in saying, been there, done that. Talking about us. You're too kind. I appreciate that. That was a wonderful day. And I made the joke here because that jacket I'm wearing in the photo, I lent it to him on like the 16th hole because it was raining and cold.
Yep.
Saved his life.
Poor guy. He had nothing. I know he was running into the pro shop to try to buy something.
Yep,
We got a jacket for you, man. Don't worry about it. Philly says Tom Brady. No question. That would be cool, he says. Let's see here. I see a couple of Bill Murrays popping up.
Yeah.
But good answers all around. I mean, I love these hypotheticals. Yep. Of course, actually, I'm surprised we didn't see as much of this. But Sean says Tiger Woods. Just to say you've been able to play around with the GOAT is surely every amateur golfer's dream, and that's true. I'm surprised we didn't see more with Tiger. But so Tiger in here, some other PGA Tour players, Ricky Fowler.
I just got a response from the doc, by the way, instantly.
Okay.
He goes, your jacket did save my life. It also made for a better photo of me on 18, not soaked in a see-through pink polo. And then he says, I am brilliant. Being a doctor has not been the easiest over the last year. Oh, yeah. Still getting to play a lot. Kinloch in Virginia, the recent highlight. You guys are knocking it out of the park. Keep up the great content. Thank you, Doctor.
That's awesome.
Appreciate that.
And thank you is right. Any of our healthcare workers over the past have not had a good year. That's for sure. But yeah, so everybody, thank you guys for weighing into this week's Twitter tap. And of course, as we say every week, we can't read all the responses. So make sure you guys follow us on Twitter and check those out. We always like having this. Is always a fun conversation. And again, these are some of my favorites are the hypotheticals. Just getting an idea and why. I even saw somebody here was from Canada, said they would play Wayne Gretzky. Again, terrific calls all around. I wouldn't turn any of these down. That's for sure.
I was hoping for like a really random one. I just want a real random, but we didn't get much random. Very popular people.
Random. Yeah, nothing too random.
You know, Triple H from WWF, like something really random. I don't know.
If I had one choice, I gotta go Triple H.
Yeah, I don't know why he came into my head.
Yeah, talk about random. All right, let's do a word from a few more of our sponsors. Then we're gonna dive into talking about swing tempo.
Yes, let's do it. So this week we want to thank FootJoy. But before I talk about these premier shoes that are so hot. If you see us on YouTube, you can check out these dope shirts we got here from the FootJoy Todd Snyder collection, and they're probably still available if they didn't sell out already.
The hats too.
The hats are here. We had some shoes on earlier, but we took them off. But they were in that same lineup. So FootJoy sets the standard for golf shoe performance and style. And 2021 is their new shoe, the Premier Series, inspired by golf shoes of the past.
Today.
We wore them today. It was super nice.
I was so surprised with how comfortable they are because they have that look of a dress shoe, that classic look, but they've got that feel of like a sport performance shoe.
Yeah. I could definitely walk a full round in those.
No doubt.
Without question. I mean, these were designed in collaboration with the world's best best players like Justin Thomas, Adam Scott, Max Homa. The Premier Series features classic styling with premium waterproof leathers, cool detailed leather too, by the way, like a different, kind of feel. Great details that exude that craftsmanship. State-of-the-art comfort, like we said, performance features like that VersaTrax Plus outsole. You can learn more about the entire lineup, guys, the Premier Series. Just go to footjoy.com and check that out. And lastly, want to thank ShotScope. Now, could be new to the season. You could just be coming out of lockdown. Golf is upon you. You're looking for a GPS device, right? Or a rangefinder. Well, you got a bunch of options. First, got to highlight ShotScope's V3. That's our favorite. That's the GPS and stat tracking watch that collects all of your data that will help you improve, help you enjoy the game a little bit better, and just overall help you out on the course.
And we've got the Golficity Leaderboard, which you can be a part of.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's pretty cool too. So, you got all that. It's got deadly GPS. It's $219. So it's got a really nice price tag. It comes in teal, red, gray, black, so different colors. It's compared size-wise like an Apple Watch, nothing too bulky. They really did wonders with the new design this year. Last year.
No subscription fees.
And that's the key thing.
We don't talk about.
We don't talk about that enough.
You pay it one time, and you're not worried about having to pay monthly for your data. You get everything. It's just there.
No one likes subscription fees.
No.
Right. And then they have the G3, which is GPS only, and that sells for $179. So if you're not into it for the stats, you just want GPS, you can get the G3. And then last, if you need a rangefinder, we've used this one. We're loving it. It's our new rangefinder, the Pro L1 by ShotScope. It's got pin lock vibration, slope adjustment, just overall lightweight. I mean, this thing should be a $400 rangefinder. It's all packed into this for $200. How can you beat that? Check it out. Go to shotscope.com/Golficity. All right, Frank, let's do this.
So let's dive into tempo. And I think tempo is one of those things that if you're new to golf, you might hear someone say, hey, he's got a good tempo. But ultimately, well, I know that sounds nice, but what does that mean really? And why it can be tough too is because just like there's no one good right swing, there's no one good right tempo. You can have two different golfers with two varying tempos, but have them both at the same time be a good tempo.
Yep.
So I think this is one of the reasons why new golfers can get their head spinning confused. Well, what do you mean there? It's something that there's commonalities between these good tempos, but that doesn't mean they have to be the same. So it's what kind of signifies a good tempo, and why is this going to benefit your game? And I think, like I said, if you're an experienced golfer, you just kind of know a good tempo when you see it, but it's something that you can learn and you can become better at. And ultimately, it's one of those things that's going to lead to, I think, what we're all chasing is consistency. I mean, would you agree with me? I think the number one thing as a 12 handicap myself, I think the number one thing I struggle with still is consistency.
Same.
You too?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like every once in a while, not every once in a while, hopefully more often than not, I hit a good shot, but then it goes the other way and I hit a bad shot. I'm like, well, what was the difference here? And you'd be surprised at how much of that can come down to just you getting away from your rhythm.
I feel like most time it's because it's rushed or something like that. That's what I do. I feel I rushed that one, or it's too quick, or I didn't take my time.
And you can feel it. It's a good point, because we say you can see a good tempo, but in a lot of ways, right after it happens, you know it.
Yeah.
You're like, something felt off with your tempo. It felt rushed. It felt whatever. But that being said, hang on, because we're going to talk more about that. Just because you have a faster overall rhythm to your swing doesn't mean it's incorrect. There are going to be golfers with a slower tempo and a faster tempo. What we're really looking for is consistency. So I guess the most defining characteristic of a good tempo is consistency of the pace from start to finish. One thing that I'll tell you right off the bat, I think the dead giveaway for a tempo that there's something off with it, it's not a smooth rhythmic tempo, is rushing during transitional parts of the swing. When we see a lot of pro golfers, even if there is a variation obviously in the speed at which they take it back and then they come down through, but where that smoothness comes from, it comes from having a very deliberate, very rhythmic transition. So I mean, transition from the backswing to coming down through the ball. Another transition can be from the very start and just to your takeaway. So one thing we'll see is a rushed takeaway which can look a little jerky,
Right.
or a rushed. That's where we say we got quick very often, is at the top at that transition.
That's it.
So you come to the top, and then all of a sudden you transition a little too quick. You don't allow that swing to have that time to develop and then go. So no matter how fast you effectively bring the club down and back, where visually you start to see something that looks like it's a rushed or a unrhythmic tempo is when something is jarring, like a transition that doesn't happen smoothly.
Yeah. And for me, I feel like I go like horse and buggy to here,
Yeah.
and then it's Ferrari through.
Which is fine. I mean, like I said, there are certain golfers. Look at Hideki Matsuyama, right?
Yep.
He'll all the way to the pause at the top, but there's still a smoothness and a rhythm to the way that he does that transition and starts it.
It's true.
It's when you get like where, like I said, it's like it's almost hard to verbally explain, but you'll see it when you know it. Well, you'll know it when you see it is when like there's like the jerkiness at the top and it just kind of gets it out of that rhythm. It's no different than like if you were listening to music and all of a sudden there was this kind of like this rushed off beat.
Yeah.
You would know it. It happened.
You would know it.
It doesn't matter if the song is fast in tempo. It's the change in tempo that you would be like, whoa, something happened there.
Right.
Right. If the song is fast from start to finish, it's kind of, it's smooth in that way. But when there's something in there where there's just like this rushed feeling is what will often in a lot of ways cause that. So the first thing I would say, and the first, kind of place to look, if you feel like something is off with your tempo, is to look at those transitional moments, whether it's the what we call the transition at the top or it's that first initial takeaway.
Right.
Because that's another place a lot of people rush it. So let's say you get standing over the ball and you take that club away really fast, and now you can't maintain that speed all the way to the top because you almost fall over. So you rush it and then you slow down. And then you get to the top and then you speed back up. And it's this, like I said, this just changing rhythm, this changing tempo is what's going to ultimately be what makes the consistency harder to find.
Gotcha. And now I'm like watching this Freddie Couples clip.
You just let that just burn into your brain.
And I noticed that his takeaway and his swing, they're both the same speed. I mean, it looks like it. Like
it very much looks
like that.
And this is where it comes down to that old adage where people say, it looks like these pros are swinging so slow.
Right.
The reality is that their tempo and their rhythm is so smooth that they're building speed slowly. There's no moment where they're having this jerky action where they're immediately creating speed. A guy like Fred Couples built a ton of speed. I mean, it was Boom Boom was his nickname. I mean, so he was able to, he bring that comeback nice and smooth. He transitioned nice and smooth at the top. And then he would just very smoothly accelerate all the way up until that moment of impact. But because that acceleration was so smooth, another way to kind of think about it is you could be sitting on a train doing 100 miles an hour on a bullet train, and you're not feeling it.
Right.
But what you do feel is if I accelerated you from 0 to 100 in a second, you're going to be jerked back in your seat.
Right.
But if I slowly took the time to get that train up to speed, and I this is an over exaggeration. I don't want anybody, trying to take forever to get some swing speed because you may, swing still happens in a second, but the over exaggeration is that's the difference of that smoothness. You're still traveling 100 miles an hour. It's just you smoothly get to it just by little.
Makes sense. Okay.
So some pro golfers to consider, of course, take a look at Fred Couples, Ernie Els,
another
the
one.
Big Easy, right?
Yep.
I mean, you look at these guys and it's almost hard to believe how much power these guys generated with swings that look slow. But then you look at their swing speeds, especially in their prime, they were getting their club head speeds of 115 miles per hour plus with the driver.
Right. Yep.
Right. So they're still generating it. So what is the difference? And largely that difference is the smoothness. If it's not jarring to the eye, it doesn't seem as hectic. It's like, when they do action movies, a lot of times the editors will cut out certain frames.
Yeah, right.
And what that'll do is it'll make the action seem more jarring, and that makes it seem more, faster and stuff like that.
Sure.
So that's types of ways that it can kind of get a disconnect between the reality of the physics and what the eye perceives. So those are guys that, they come up all the time, and they, like I said, those guys, they never looked like they were swinging hard, but they had a ton of power. But at the same time, there's other examples. Take a look at Nick Price. Or more modern today's golfer, look at like Tony Finau. He's got a fast, short swing, but it's effective and it's powerful, and it never looks like it's not smooth. It is fast. It's like a rock song versus, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Your Motown R&B that you were talking about before.
Right.
It's
Yep.
like the overall speed is a little bit faster, but it ultimately has a rhythm, and it has a consistent rhythm that goes throughout it. There aren't varying rhythms that would cause it to look like it was a jerky swing. So really, again, I don't think the idea we want to pass along here is that you don't need to emulate somebody else's tempo. Just find because it's a very personal thing to you. Find the tempo that you work with, and then just smooth that out by making sure that you're keeping that tempo, which we'll talk about in a second, consistent through the variations that happen during the golf game, and B, looking at those transitional, those moments.
Do you remember that caddy at Kings Barnes talking about that Tony Finau par 5 he played?
Oh my God, yeah.
It was like 600 and something, 50 yards. It was a beast. And he did what? Driver 7-iron into
the green. Kings Barnes, I'll give you that there was a little wind, but still, the guy hit like a 350-yard drive and like a 200-yard 7-iron or something.
If not more. Yeah, crazy.
Absolutely insane. But again, going back to it, like, stick within your tempo. I think a big problem, and I'm trying to remember who the golfer was. I think it was Faldo that at one point struggled. No, it was Greg Norman. Greg Norman, I remember the story now. He struggled because he so revered Jack Nicklaus and wanted to emulate him, that Norman tried to change his pace to more match Jack, and it really caused him to go into a bit of a slump, and he had to come back from it. So there's just, like I said, we've talked about this on the podcast before. There are some people that just their pace of life, they're people who walk quicker. It's like you said,
yep,
right. And then there's other people who have a slower pace, and it's not to say that one works better than the other. You just got to become aware of yourself and then match to it, because if you get away from what's comfortable to you, it's going to be harder to sustain.
Yeah.
And therein lies the problem with consistency.
Right. Makes sense.
You can't sustain it.
Makes sense.
So how do you evaluate it? How do you evaluate your swing tempo? Well, I think one big thing you can do, and the tool that we always talk about that all of us golfers now have in our pocket, is your phone. Pull it out and record some swings. And a good thing you can do is record a snapshot of different swings. So not just always recording just one, because we want to make sure that you've got a good tempo and rhythm throughout the bag. So get out there, record some driver swings, some mid-iron swings, some wedge swings, and then be able to go back to that and kind of remove yourself from it, and with like a more of a discerning eye, and say, what about this, looks like it's not smooth to me?
Mm-hmm.
What could it be that I'm rushing? So one common place to look at, it's very often happens, is like we talk about in that takeaway. A lot of times golfers, they kind of rush that takeaway phase because you're anxious to get the swing going. And you feel like what happens is subconsciously, because again, it happens so fast, you're not really always thinking of this, but subconsciously now your body feels like, whoa, I took that away too fast and I'm rushing. And now it's trying to adapt and slow things back down. And now your timing and your tempo are way off. So if you can start with a nice, smooth, controlled takeaway, it will ultimately lead to making a much easier, smoother transition, especially because you get that takeaway going, like ripping that club back. Obviously, naturally, it's going to be harder to transition smoothly, because now you got to stop all that momentum and then, right? So, and some, I've seen instructors talk about putting a pause at the top, and sometimes it's not even a full pause like Matsuyama does. Sometimes it's just the idea of a pause. You feel like you're hesitating up there, but if you watch it back, you're really not physically stopping the club.
Even today during the fitting, all the bad shots, I turned around immediately to Kevin and I was like, too fast. And he's like, yep. Like I could feel it. He felt it and saw it.
Yeah.
Like, and then the ones that were great and out there and dead center, it was just the tempo was just improved and much shorter. He was reminding me of it all day. So
yeah,
definitely something that's been sticking with me for a long time. Again, with me, I've done a great job overcoming bringing the club back fast. I started to bring it back slow. I finally figured that out. But like I said, when I get to the top, like something just switches and I just rip through it.
Yeah.
It's just not just one steady motion, and that's just something I need to.
So
work
much
on.
of it is just being aware of the fact that you are trying to rush it. And a lot of times it's just because it's a more nervous shot or something. We're just trying to get the shot going and we just rush some part of it. But start there. If you need a starting point, start with your takeaway. Work on just getting a nice, smooth takeaway. And the great part is it's something we talked about before. Like we're all crunched for time. When are you going to practice? It's something you can practice at home. You can just work on just that first motion away from the ball and just making it a smooth, even takeaway.
Right.
And even if you don't get it, you're indoors, you don't get to swing a full club, just working on that takeaway and staying connected. Because another thing that happens is when we rush that backswing, oftentimes we get disconnected and our arms start to get away from our body where you want to stay as connected as possible. And what'll happen is your hands get ahead of your shoulder turn.
Right.
And honestly, that is definitely a recipe for consistency disaster. So what this leads to, kind of the final point here, is that mental piece. Understand that while you may dial it in and have it perfect some of the time, golf is a game that's going to throw you curveballs. You're going to have varying things, varying stress from shots that matter maybe more than others, varying external conditions like weather.
Right.
You know, it could be cold out there and you're already a little bit tight or whatever it may be. But you have to try to build that mental game where you're able to sustain that tempo through a whole round of golf. And that is easier said than done.
Sure. Yeah. It's not that easy, man.
It is not easy, but I think the way that you do it is by first becoming aware. You know, if you were, as you gave that example earlier, Mike, if you are hitting some good shots and things are starting to go awry, mentally check in with your tempo and some of those tempo pinch points like a takeaway or a transition at the top and just say, am I rushing a little bit here?
Yeah. Could just
you might find that you are.
It could be just as easy sometimes for me to just take a deep breath or stand over the ball for a sec, you know, take a look at my target again, kind of reset.
Yeah.
And that does help bring the tempo back to where I want. I find it goes out the window when it's just like, I don't even plan that shot. It was no game plan going in. I just went up to it. It was like I had to be somewhere in a hurry.
Right.
I just wanted to get up to the green and I just rushed it. I didn't think about anything. And that's where the shot usually goes.
And think about any area of your life. Is there anything that you do very accurately when you do it rushed?
Yeah, right.
Not really, right?
Right.
I mean, and this is also the benefit of getting out there and playing with friends and having those other eyeballs, as you can say, hey man, what do I look like I'm rushing? Because I may not even be aware of it. Or, hey, can you hold my phone and just video me for a second? I got to figure out what I'm doing wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
And then just getting an idea of what it may be. But first things first is just being aware of your own mental state. Just saying to yourself, like checking in and saying, like, am I frustrated? Like, be real with yourself. Am I frustrated right now? Am I anxious? Am I nervous about this shot?
Right.
Because if I am, I know the stakes are higher, that it's very possible for me to get away from my tempo and rush things. But the more you can get to that point where you're just aware of it and the tempo is kind of like your home base. And we have this, we'll put in the show notes a link to, we'll put, you know, everything that we're kind of talking about here, but there's this great kind of, somebody put together this string of Fred Couples shots like through 20 years
yeah.
or something like that. And this guy swung with the same tempo for 20 years, you know,
It's incredible.
just like just watching a well-tuned clock.
Yep.
Just like boom, boom, boom. And you're just like, you know, that kind of shows you. And then what that leads to is some of the best players in the game is because that they've got that consistency that they can rely on, because that tempo, and that just tells you tempo is so key. So again, just to kind of recap, there's no right speed as far as a faster tempo or a slower tempo. It's the consistency and smoothness of that tempo that we're after. And if you find that there's some sort of variation that's creating it to be visibly unsmooth, look at those moments like those, the transitional points, the takeaway points, and just see, is there a spot where I'm rushing where I can kind of smooth that out and just work on smoothing that out.
I like it, dude. It makes sense. Easier said than done.
Easier. It's going to take practice. What I said before, it takes practice.
But it all, like again, like I said, the range session with the music, it not only helped with the tempo with the slow songs, but again, the more important thing was it blocks everything out around me.
Yeah,
and
keeps you calm.
On a packed Saturday range when everyone's really on top of each other nowadays, we're back to that. Like there was a lot of chatter. There was a young kid with his father, and then there was a bunch of groups of friends. Like I just blocked it all out, and I was able to focus on that, and it was very helpful.
Yeah,
very helpful.
It's going back to Adam Sandler. It's like your happy place.
That's your happy place. Yeah.
So just like you find that spot and being able to just kind of return to it where you can create that nice smooth swing. it will pay dividends.
Can you believe I had 3 hours to myself on a Saturday?
That's
I
still
almost
the most
played 9
surprising
holes.
part of this entire
Like, I was like,
podcast.
should I play 9 holes or what should I do?
3 hours.
I was coming here to play in the sim, but it was beautiful out. I'm like, no. Then a U-turn. I went to the range.
Yeah.
I got a bucket of 90 balls. I only made it through about 47 because I took my time.
That's a good thing.
Yeah,
Right.
and I just left the rest. That's why my back's probably killing me right now. But yeah, no, it was fun. It was fun to hit some balls out there and practice
take
this
advantage of
exact
it
thing.
when you can.
Yeah.
But that's just it. So start to just, if nothing else, start to bring your attention to your rhythm and your tempo, and then start to connect those dots that when things are going off the rails, you can kind of look at it and be like, wait, how's my tempo right now? How's my rhythm right now? And chances are there's an issue there, and that's why you're not quite synced up. So if you're after that consistency, work on your rhythm, work on your tempo. And like I said, it will ultimately result in better ball striking and better, more consistent ball striking.
Love it. Makes sense.
All right. So that's everything we have for you guys this week. Make sure you go to the show notes by going to golficity.com/episode 371. Or as always, you can get everything in the Golficity app, which is available for iOS and Android. Go to golficity.com/app to download that. And we'll see everybody again next week.